Hi, it's Dwyer, December 7th, 2024. GamblersAdvisory.com, free site. Also, bettingangle.us, a free site. Let's talk about Ismael Barroso's KO of Ohara Davies. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let me just make a couple of points here. Let's start with the big news. First, we reeled in a nice profit on this fight. In the pre-fight video on the members-only service, I encouraged viewers to take the under 8.5 rounds. Right? The logic was simply both of these guys, both of them, are punchers. Right? The older fighter, the southpaw slugger, Ismael Barroso, has one of the biggest punches in the sport. And he's cagey because he's older. We'll talk about that caginess. Well, folks, you didn't have to wait 8.5 rounds on the under 8.5 rounds to collect, because this fight went less than a round. Right? It went less than a round. Barroso, the underdog, gets the stoppage, drops Davies twice. Let me make another point here too. Right? Davies has a tough guy face. Right? He looks like he's just woken up. That's even when he's completely alert. So one of the moments where you have to get out of character, where you actually have to communicate, where you have to be clear in letting the other person know that you're alert, is when the referee asks you if you want to continue. Right? You can't whisper, especially when you have a face that's not expressive. Here, Davies has a face that's not expressive. Look at him in the picture behind me, the pre-fight poster. Right, folks? That's the face the guy has. Look at his eyes. Right? You're depending on his tone of voice, his voice inflection. You're depending on him being out of character. If you're a referee and you say, do you want to continue? You can't have a face that looks like you're tough. You can't have a subway face. If you're in a city with, a subway system where you don't want to be bothered, you're on the subway, you have to let wannabe thugs know, hey, don't mess with me. You can't have that face when the referee says, do you want to continue? Davies, who is woozy. I'm not here to say he's not woozy. But you got the feeling he knew what was going on after the second knockdown. Davies just wasn't expressive enough. Right? I mentioned this after the Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz first fight, where the ref goes over to Joshua, and I was surprised the ref let the fight continue, because Joshua looks at him and Joshua's hardly talking to him. Right? The Josh Warrington recent fight, where the ref goes over and Warrington's looking at his corner. He's not even engaging with the referee. Here, Davies needs to realize going forward that when he gets off the canvas, and there'll be nights when you get hit, when he gets off the canvas and the ref comes over, you can't whisper. Your voice has to be heard. You have to put your hands up. You have to let people know, look, I'm alert. I know where I am. Yes, I got caught, but I can continue. He doesn't here. I believe the ref made the right call. On the telecast, on the zone, they tell you that the doctor is on the ring apron. Right, folks? This was a big time moment. He gets caught by a slugger. He didn't respond. Folks, he lost the fight in the first round. The ref decided, look, this guy's not responding enough, right? Looking forward with these eyes, not open eyes, not with Barroso's eyes, right? Barroso has his eyes open and stuff like that. Look, when you have to know yourself. When you are from London, you've been riding on the subway, you have that tough guy look, you have these distant eyes. And the ref says, do you want to continue, player? You have to clearly state that you do. You have to open your eyes and let the ref realize, look, I'm not going to pretend I'm 100%, but at the same time, I'm alert enough to continue. Davies didn't do that here. Let's also talk about the advantage of age here. On the telecast, they tell you that Barroso is usually front foot. Now, I've been here online talking about KG vets, and truth be known, both of these guys are over 30. They're both KG. But understand Barroso, and he's a very important person in boxing right now. Very important. Barroso has a huge left hand. He's a southpaw slugger. Now, if you're right-handed like Davies, that left hand is going to come over your right side. Right? Figure it out. You're right-handed, your backhand, you're right-handed fighting out of an orthodox stance. Your backhand, your dominant right hand, it's on that side. Not your jab side. It's on your dominant hand side, that Barroso's huge left that has ring coverage is going to come over. So how, if you're Davies, do you control distance when Barroso, the vet, is using experience to be on his back foot? Folks, it's a mic drop moment in this fight. The fight starts and you notice Barroso, one of the biggest punchers in boxing. Understand, power is the last to go. He's 40 years old. He hits hard. As I mentioned in the pre-fight video, George Foreman is in his mid-40s, and he still had his punch. That's how he regains the heavyweight title. Zhili Zhang is 40 years old, just like Barroso. He's one of the hardest punchers in the sport of boxing. Maybe these 40-year-old guys don't have the hand speed they did when they were younger. But folks, they have experience. They still have the punch. Now here Davies comes out, and Barroso's on his back foot. Folks, he's too far away to get hit with Davies' jab. Right? Davies is throwing a left jab against a southpaw slugger who's on his back foot. If you're Davies, how do you control distance? Folks, you can't. I'm just telling you, when a southpaw figures out the angles, and the angles are a big part of boxing. When a southpaw, especially a guy like this, Barroso, who only has to be right once, when he realizes that he's facing a righty, that Davies' big power is in his right hand, and when he figures out that on his back foot at certain angles, Davies can't keep him on the end of a jab. Not only that, if Davies has a Teofimo Lopez tight left hook, right? If Davies has a great left hook, just understand, by being on his back foot, Barroso is outside of the left hook. You would have to have a long-range left hook, like Martin Bakole does in the heavyweight division, to be able to reach Barroso when Barroso's on his back foot. So understand what happens. Barroso is out of range for Davies' jab. He's out of range for Davies' left hook. and he's the biggest puncher in the fight. So Barroso's waiting for his opportunity. Here's where feints come in. If you don't feint your right hand against Barroso, he's going to be able to counter it. If he knows that when you look like you're throwing your right hand, you're actually throwing your right hand, he's going to be able to, as you're throwing your right hand, counter it with his left that has ring coverage. Understand, like Martin Bakole at heavyweight, this guy has ring coverage on his left hand. So here, Davies throws a right. It's even worse than that, folks. He throws a right to Barroso's chest. Barroso is able to come over the right hand with his ring coverage left hook. It lands flush. The fight is over. Right? Understand, after that left hook lands, okay, Davies is still upright for another punch or two, but life has changed. Everyone in the arena knows Davies has been severely hurt. Barroso, who may have planned on being on his back foot in a cat and mouse type first few rounds, now realizes, here's my opportunity. This guy's badly hurt. So he steps on the gas, gets Davies down. Davies gets back up. Everyone knows. He's not 100% at this point. Barroso comes in, drops him again, and then these eyes betray Davies. Right? The ref looks at Davies after he gets up the second time. Again, look at the pre-fight poster behind me. A guy who you've just seen get hit hard twice, hit the canvas twice. If you're the referee looking into these eyes, and the guy is less than enthusiastic, doesn't have the body language to say, hey, ref, I'm alert, I can continue. The guy's talking in a low voice to you. You say, do you want to continue? And the guy, low voice with these eyes, says, yes, I do. It's a wrap, right? Doctor is on the ring apron. Everyone in the arena knows this is urgent. He's just been hit by a puncher, right? The first time, it looks like he's in a car crash. Understand, neither knockdown's a flash knockdown. He hits the canvas like a sack of potatoes. So let's talk about the future here. And it's important. You know, life has a duality. Sometimes in boxing, when you get ripped off, the public steps in. They say, you know what? I saw what happened to this guy and he was ripped off. Right? Years ago, Derek Chisora fought Robert Helenius. A lot of people, myself included, I think I made a video at the time, thought that Derek Chisora won that fight. The judges awarded it to Helenius. Helenius back then was younger, new, right? We thought he might take over the sport of boxing. Helenius has always been a hellacious puncher. Well, the heavyweight champion, Vitaly Klitschko, saw that fight. And Vitaly decided that he was going to give the guy who lost the Chisora-Helenius fight the shot at the title. Let me also say, too, in one of Chisora's best moments, look up this part of history. Chisora actually gave one of the better heavyweight champions in my mind an excellent fight, one of his best fights. Chisora goes the distance with Vitaly Klitschko. Now, as I mentioned in the pre-fight video, a lot of people, myself included, let me raise my hand, thought that the referee's stoppage of the Remero, remember that name, Ismael Barroso fight, where Barroso is leading on two of the judges' scorecards and has dropped Rolly Remero in the fight. Folks, he has a big punch. Right? He drops Rolly Remero. He's ahead on two of the judges' scorecards with margin. A lot of people thought that the referee panicked and prematurely stopped that Rolly Remero-Barroso fight. Right? Barroso looks older. You notice that his hair is thinning. Right? He doesn't have a young man's skin. Right? Look at him here in the photo behind me, right? He looks like he's a little bit older. So understand what's happening here. People saw that fight and thought it was a premature stoppage. Let me congratulate the sanctioning body here. The sanctioning body stepped in. The sanctioning body ordered this fight. The sanctioning body further ordered that the winner of this fight gets a shot on Rolly Remero. Now, you may have heard Rolly Remero's name in the news recently. It's because Ryan Garcia pivoted away from fighting Devin Haney and now wants to fight Rolly Remero. Right? You might also recall that Remero, who's one of the sport's best talkers, I didn't say fighters, I said talkers. Rolly Remero fought Gervonta Davis, a southpaw. Remember that name. Right? And Rolly was in the ring flat-footed because he's a flat-footed fighter, trying to knock out Davis, who showed a lot of restraint in that fight because Davis understood that Rolly has a big punch. Well, look, life's unfair. Just understand, Rolly Remero is not one of the great fighters in boxing. He's not. But yet, think about the opportunities he's getting. Right? Jaron Ennis must be wondering what it takes to get opportunities like this. He's already fought Gervonta Davis. Now he has Ryan Garcia coming to him for a fight. In other words, some major box office attractions in the sport are knocking on Rolly's door. And Rolly isn't exactly Terrence Crawford. Well, just understand, and I need for boxing to think this one through. Remero needs to think this one through. Who's the bigger threat to Rolly Remero in the ring? Forget the box office and who's pulling fans and stuff like that. Rolly Remero, at the end of the day, is a professional prize fighter. The purses matter. Right? He's in it in part for paydays. To feed his family, to feed himself. Right, folks? He knows he has problems against Barroso. Understand, he was lucky that the referee stopped that fight prematurely. He not only got dropped, in other words, Barroso, a puncher, knows he can drop Rolly Remero because it's already happened. Not only that, more importantly, he was getting outboxed. Right? Don't focus on the age. Focus on the scorecards. You fight a guy, you get dropped, then you get off the canvas, then the guy's outboxing you, according to the judges, the people that matter. So Rolly Remero knows that Barroso is troublesome. Not only that, Rolly Remero knows that Ryan Garcia brings in fans. Right? Unless you're a boxing hardcore person, you're going to be more interested in the Ryan Garcia Rolly Remero fight than you are the Ismael Barroso Rolly Remero fight. So here's where fighters need to consider walking away from belts. I know this is going to sound ridiculous to people, right? But if I'm advising Rolly Remero here, I would say make the deal with Ryan Garcia. That fight's going to be remembered, like the Rolly Romero-Gervonta Davis fight. I would tell my fighter, look, I don't care if Barroso's 40 or 45 years old. I don't care what the story is. Just like I don't really care about what Sonny Liston's real age was. And Google it. That's an open question. Right? You have a whole part of the sport where it's older guys who are damn tough. Archie Moore. Right? I don't need to look at a guy's birth certificate to know whether or not he's tough. If I'm advising Rolly Romero, I'd say, look, this old man wants to take your title. By the way, that's literally what James Toney's cornerman told him between rounds in a fight Tony once had. Right? I would tell him, this old man wants to take your title. He's too dangerous. If we're going to take risks, let's at least take the risks that come with paydays. What I want boxing to do here, too, is to think deeper into this. Folks, Barroso would be a great opponent. A great opponent for Gervonta Davis. Right? Let's stop kidding ourselves, too. Folks, Davis held a title. Davis has already fought Mario Barrios. Davis held a title at 140. I don't want to hear about catch weights and he's not in my weight and stuff like that. If you've been to the division, and the division is actually 5 pounds above 135, where Davis is now. If you've already been to the division where you don't have to lose weight to get in the division, and let's face it too, we've seen enough Davis pre-fight videos to notice the vinyl suit the guy's wearing, to notice all the clothes he's wearing. Davis is a guy who has to lose weight to make 135. Right? Davis against Barroso at 140 would feature two of the premier southpaw sluggers in the sport. And when I say premier, look, we're going outside of record. I know Barroso has multiple losses. But you don't have to be a genius to notice a southpaw who only has to be right once, who's a vet, who's a tricky matchup for most opponents. Right? Barroso is like Zhili Zhang is at heavyweight. Folks, he's a boogeyman. If I'm Rolly Romero, I don't want to fight him. Even if I have to walk away from the title, if the fight I'm leaving the title for is a matchup against Ryan Garcia, where if I beat Ryan Garcia, my name's going to be splashed all over the internet, I take that fight. Let me just say, too, when it's a big name, I know this is counterintuitive. There's actually less risk involved. Right? You think about Rolly Romero's record and you realize he lost to Gervonta Davis. For a lot of people, they're going to say, well, Gervonta Davis is one of the biggest names in boxing. Not only that, a lot of people are going to be impressed. They're going to say, wow, Rolly Romero fought against Gervonta Davis? Right? We're in an internet world. A lot of people are going to say, hey, let me pull up that fight right now online. Let me watch that fight. You're going to be more interested in Rolly Romero because he fought a great fighter, because he took risks. Now, it's not the same for the casual fan when you hear that Rolly Romero got dropped by 40-year-old, allegedly, Ismael Barroso. Right? A fighter is going to say, a casual fan is going to say, who's Ismael Barroso? You and I know he's one of the harder punchers in boxing. You and I know he's a cagey vet. He's the guy with the punch who's on his back foot here. Think about how ridiculous that is. And of course you realize why he's on his back foot, because now he's out of orthodox fighter Davies' jab range. Now he has Davies coming to him. Think about that. You're the puncher in the fight. You're on your back foot and the other guy's coming to you. there's a whole group of fighter who's going to say, oh, this is good. Could you imagine Mike Tyson looking at you coming to him? The first Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson fight, believe it or not, it's the champ who's on his front foot coming to Sonny Liston. That's the dynamic here. Well, let's go one step further. You're Ryan Garcia. Garcia throws a tight left hook. Are you sure, and I mean this, are you sure that Ismael Barroso, who has the experience of being a vet, this is a guy who held the title in his past, are you sure that Ismael Barroso, who can fight on his back foot, we see that here. You'll notice his hands are up too. He's not only on his back foot, he's defensively ready. Are you sure that Ismael Barroso is going to be close enough to Ryan Garcia to get hit with Garcia's tight left hook? Isn't there a possibility that the angles won't match up for Garcia in this fight? Let's remember that Barroso's big punch, which is his left, he can throw it straight, he can straighten it, he can throw it as a hook. He has ring coverage. It would be coming in over Ryan Garcia's right shoulder. Right? By the way, Barroso can also throw it to the body. Right? So Barroso doesn't have to be over on Ryan Garcia's left side to be effective. He doesn't even have to be close to Ryan Garcia to be effective. You want to know a dangerous fight for Ryan Garcia? It would be Ryan Garcia in his prime against 40-year-old Ismael Barroso. Folks, that's a dangerous fight for Ryan Garcia. Folks, he's a dangerous fight for Teofimo Lopez. Right? Again, these guys with great left hooks. What do you do when you're facing a southpaw who can actually be on his back foot away from your left side? Right? So folks, this is a very important fight. It was a nice win here for the members only crowd, but this is a very important fight for boxing. This fight's going to change the landscape. I'll be shocked if given a choice between fighting Ryan Garcia and having a rematch against this guy who's already dropped him, who was beating him, who was on his way to taking his title. I'll be shocked if Rolly Remero picks this guy over Ryan Garcia. Understand, if he doesn't pick Ismael Barroso, he'll be vacating the title. My point to fighters, and I know it's controversial, is sometimes you're better off vacating the title. Who here watching this video doesn't know who Gervonta Davis is? Gervonta Davis is one of boxing's box office successes. Does he need a sanctioning body telling him who to fight? Since he's already made his money, and there's a lot more money on the table, I'm not disputing that. Wouldn't he be better off picking his opponents? Being able to say, hey, you know what? If a Ryan Garcia wants to fight me, and that's Gervonta Davis's biggest payday to date, let me fight him, whether or not he's a mandatory. Well, Rolly Remero has a big decision to make. Don't be surprised if he vacates the title, because this southpaw is too dangerous. Right? What matters most is not age. It's whether the guy has coverage on his left hand. It's whether the guy has the boxing experience to understand, even though I'm a slugger who normally is on my front foot, against this opponent, let me be on my back foot. let me set up the angles where the guy can't hit me with his jab, right? What happened to Joe Joyce's jab, by the way, when he faced Zhili Zhang? Right? The guy can't hit me with his jab. The guy's tight left hook is taken out of the picture. I have a safe harbor in the ring, and all I have to do is wait to counter this guy's Sunday right hand. Folks, this is an important fight to watch. Ismael Barroso is an important fighter. He might want to thank referee Tony Weeks for putting him on the front page, because the stoppage in the first Raleigh Remero fight was ridiculous. So now the sanctioning body realizes, okay, we need to say, hey, Davies, you need to fight Barroso. Raleigh Remero, if you're going to hold our belt, you need to fight the winner of that fight. If I'm Raleigh Remero, I say, hey, look, Ryan Garcia, come on down. Let's have it. Right? I'd say Devin Haney, who I believe would have trouble making 140. Right? If I'm Raleigh Remero, who loses to Devin Haney? I'm not saying he wins, but Devin Haney is a big payday. I say, Devin Haney, you want to fight me? Come on down. But I'm not fighting this 40-year-old, who, quite frankly, is a tougher opponent for Raleigh Remero than Devin Haney, who's right-handed, who you know what to expect, who doesn't have Barroso's level of power. Let me just say, too, if Devin Haney wants to take chances, Barroso would be a very tough opponent. Davies couldn't land his jab against him. Could you imagine Devin Haney, who doesn't hit like Barroso, being in the ring with a guy who's actually being back foot, avoiding Haney's jab? Right? Haney might confuse Barroso with Regis Prograis. Barroso has ring coverage on that left hand. Folks, he has 20 or so KOs. Right? He'd be an interesting matchup for Devin Haney. Understand, this guy circling. Right? The pre-fight video delivered for us here. Right? As I said, the over-under was 8.5 rounds. This fight did not make it out of the first round. I want people to look at the knockdown that he gets against Raleigh Remero. Right? This is a guy who knocked down. Remero knocked out Ohara Davies. Right? His name should be in the mix. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Right? Think about the matchups at 135 and 140. Right? Let me just point out, too, there's a corollary to this. If I'm Barroso, I don't want to deal with a slick southpaw like Shakur Stevenson. Right? Because understand, Barroso's game, where he's away on his back foot from a righty's left jab, doesn't work if the guy he's fighting is a southpaw who has faster hand speed from him and who can fight from distance himself. Styles make fights. Let me hear from you in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.